Welcome to the Sherry and Brock Show, the best place to hear about real people accomplishing incredible things. Tune in every week to hear encouraging interviews with authentic individuals who've discovered purpose and are living the life they've always wanted. The hosts for this podcast include CEO and founder of CDM Media Group and positive influencer Sherry Cranford, as well as entrepreneur, business coach, and award-winning MC, event host, and DJ Brock Barton. It's our hope that each week, by tuning in, you'll be encouraged and inspired to do great things in your own life. Now, here are your hosts, Sherry and Brock.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here today with my co-host Brock Barton and special guest Sara Evans. We hope you're inspired and enjoy listening to us today as we sit down and talk with country music artist and songwriter Sara Evans. Now I'm going to hand it over to my co-host Brock Barton.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Super excited. Today we have the 5th most played female artist on country radio. She's got 5 #1 singles, 8 studio albums, multi-platinum recording artist Sara Evans. How are you today, Sara?
I'm great. How are y'all?
Swell. I love that we get to visit with you and connect with you today. I have heard that you are a Missouri native.
Yes. I grew up in a little town about 30 minutes from Columbia. It's a population of 1,200, and it's always been a population of 1,200. Never changed. It's never grown. It's never smaller. And it's called New Franklin, and most people know the town of Boonville, which is right next to it. And then I grew up vacationing at Lake of the Ozarks.
Awesome. That's where I grew up vacationing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome.
I about the show Ozark on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Right.
We do get a lot of connections to that, don't we?
Yes, we do.
I love it. I don't know that I've been to New Franklin, but I'm very close to Columbia. I'm a Mizzou grad, and so I'm familiar with the area quite well.
Yeah, me too. And my mom's parents, my granny and papa, lived in in Columbia. And so, I spent pretty much every weekend of my life at their house because I loved being there so much. So, and then I have I have a huge family. I come from 7 kids, and all of my siblings, all of my cousins and nieces and nephews, everybody still lives in that area in Missouri, except one brother, my brother Matt, who's my bass player, and he's always been my bass player since I was 4 years old. And he and I were the ones that, were really serious about the music. So we moved to Nashville years ago.
That's incredible. I love that. I love it. And actually, when did you move to Nashville? Do you quite remember?
Yeah, totally. So I graduated high school in 1989, and I got a full ride scholarship for music to go to Central Methodist College, which is in Fayette, Missouri. I'm sure you've heard of that college.
Yes.
And I went there. I was the first person in my immediate family to go to college, and I went for 11 days, and then I quit.
Wow.
11 days. Everybody's like, that is just the weirdest story. You're so weird. And I am weird. But my brother, Matt, my bass player, he had gone to Hollywood to go to Musicians Institute of Technology to study jazz bass. And so, I was just kind of waiting for him to graduate. And really, all I wanted to do was move to Nashville and become Reba McEntire. And since I had grown up on stage since I was 4 years old, I knew that was my calling, that was my destiny, that there was no other pathway for me. And I think I just went to college to try to kind of make my family was so proud. And so I wanted to make them happy. But it really wasn't in my heart to go to college. And, college is definitely not for everyone. And especially if you know exactly what you want to do. And it doesn't require getting a lawyer degree or, medical degree or something like that. Mine was just, having to move to Nashville, and that was going to be my college. So I got a job and we each saved $1,000, and we moved to Nashville in 1991.
That's awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And Sherry, I think you had a question.
I do. So in 1991, you and your brother moved to Nashville on $1,000. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh no, we were rich. We had $1,000 each.
Oh, okay.
Dang.
There you go.
We immediately bought a mansion when we moved here. No, we came down here. Well, it was hilarious. My best friend from kindergarten, her name was Steffi. She went with us. So I was in my car, Matt was driving his car, and then my mom and my sister-in-law were driving because we're farmers too. I forgot to mention that. So we grew up, I grew up working my butt off on the farm. And so my mom had a 2-ton pickup truck, which she hooked a trailer on behind that, like a horse trailer. We put all of our stuff in there. And we moved into this crappy apartment off of Briley Parkway. And just started. And I immediately got a job because I had been waiting tables at Holiday Inn Executive Center in Columbia. And so I got transferred to the Holiday Inn on Briley Parkway. So I was immediately able to work. And then my brother got a job and, we just went from there.
Wow, that's so cool. What a story. And you shared that you just released your new memoir, Born to Fly. I'm loving your book and learning more about you. So tell us a little bit about your book, you started, and why you wrote it. Kind of share with our listeners about Born to Fly.
I was approached by the publisher about, almost 5 years ago now. This is such a crazy story. And they wanted to know if I'd be interested in writing a book. And if so, what kind of book would I want to write? I had co-written 3 books prior to that, 3 fiction novels. And, they did really well. And so they wanted to know if I would be interested in writing something again. And I thought, well, I'm too young to write a memoir. And I'm too young to write an autobiography. And I don't really want to write a memoir because at the time, all of my kids were in junior high and high school. And I didn't want to, go too deep or get too personal or tell too much. Definitely did not want to write a tell-all book because I didn't want to embarrass them. So I said, well, what if I write a book that's kind of a how-to book, kind of like the movie I Don't Know How She Does It, and just talk about how I juggle, being a touring artist and being a mom of 3 and a stepmom to 4, and my advice sort of on everything from fashion to pregnancy, how to lose baby weight, how to, be the kind of wife and mother that I wanted to be while still having this very powerful career and all of that. So as I started to, and they were cool with that. They were like, yeah, that sounds great. And as I started to do that, well, first I made a mistake and I thought that I needed a co-writer, someone who really could just take everything that I'm saying, but make it a good book, because I thought I don't really know how to write a book. So we hired one co-writer, and oddly enough, she was actually from Missouri, but she was, very sweet, but she wasn't married and didn't have kids. So I worried that, how well she would be able to translate everything that I was saying. And after spending 2 or 3 days with her solid and her recording everything that I said and taking notes, and when she started sending pages back, it was just so nothing like my personality, and it just wasn't funny. It wasn't anything like me. So, I changed directions, and they're like, we have another co-writer that we think would be great. She's got a ton of kids. She's a mom. She's an author, so she knows what it's like to juggle all of that. Same thing. She was from Washington State, and I think that she really thought that people from Missouri are like total rednecks and hicks. And so when she started sending pages back, she was putting words in my mouth like, why did daddy leave, mama? And it like made us sound like the Waltons, and her like, don't call my dad daddy. I call him dad. Like in Missouri, we say mom and dad. In the Midwest, she kept writing it like Little House on the Prairie. And so I just couldn't get her to change that that way of portraying me. Like I'm not some hick, like we're very sophisticated farmers and we all have excellent grammar and we're all super smart and all of that. So I finally was just like, you know what? I'm just going to write this freaking book by myself. So I literally started over. So the process took forever. And finally, the publisher was like, look, we have to have this book or just forget it. So I worked day and night to finish it. And you can, I'm sure as you can tell, it is totally 100% now my personality, my voice, my sense of humor. And I also read the Audible book as well, which makes it even more authentic because it just didn't feel authentic to me. So the book is just, so we call it a memoir because it's not a tell-all. I don't go into any salacious details about my divorce. I don't share a lot of private information about my kids, but I do talk a lot about my upbringing and my crazy life. My life is so full of drama. I've had 3 near-death experiences and, started singing on stage when I was 4 years old. By the time I was 8 years old, I was singing in bars, watching drunk people two-step. Um, and so I'm really happy with the way the book turned out. And then it does turn into a little bit of unsolicited advice, where I talk to women a lot about my feelings on marriage and motherhood and the difference in raising boys and girls and all of that. So it's overall, the book is very funny and very fun. But it does have some moments that could possibly make you cry.
Yes, it's very personal, very powerful, and your humor just comes out in it. So I haven't finished it, but it's an awesome book, and it shows your personality 100%. So awesome job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a bit more of an Audible kind of person myself, the audiobook. So I love that you read your own. I'm going to have to tune in and check it out. I'm pumped about that.
Please do. You'll love it. It's really a fun story, and it's kind of it's shocking at some moments. I talk about how I almost died in a plane crash, and my brother Matt, like I said, I have 6 siblings, but Matt and I are definitely the closest, and we've been through so much together. And we were in this private plane, and a piece of equipment called the gyroscope broke, which tells your airplane if you're upside down or not. And it was pitch dark. We were coming home from a show in Minnesota. It was on December 7th. It was very cloudy and freezing cold, and that piece of equipment broke. And I describe in horrific detail how we were half a second from hitting the ground. And then I also got hit by a car when I was 8 years old and broke both my legs, both my arms. I was unconscious for 2 days, in the hospital for 6 weeks, and had multiple surgeries on my legs. And so yeah, there's a lot of drama, and I'm sure that there's still a lot yet to come.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's incredible. You said you've had 3 of those, and has that created, 3 near-death experiences? Has that created anxiety and certain like PTSD type issues that you've had to work through?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And I definitely have PTSD, and have worked through it though. And I've never really had to be medicated. At one point in my life, I was having a long string of like months of anxiety, and so I tried antidepressants for a little while, and they just didn't work at all. They because I wasn't depressed, I just was struggling to place fear in its proper place. And when I when I would be ravaged by hormones or be super exhausted, I wasn't skilled at placing that fear and that anxiety in the proper place. And so I've really worked on that a lot and learned to stay calm. And but I think the main thing was getting hit by a car at such a young age, and the car was going 75 miles an hour, and it was a just horrific, horrific accident. And when I woke up in the hospital at Mizzou, um, my mom had just left. Like, she was there by my side every second, and they finally convinced her to go to my granny's house and try to get some sleep and shower. And of course, that's when I woke up from being unconscious for 2 days. And I didn't have my mom, and my legs were in full cast. My left leg was in a traction device. Both my arms were in casts, and I had no memory of what happened. And so just waking up and having only strangers there was extremely, extremely, scary for me as a little girl. And plus, I was used to just being on the farm with my parents and my siblings. And so, yeah, it was very traumatic.
Wow. I think that there's a good chance that some of our listeners have probably had situations that have created anxiety and, PTSD type of symptoms themselves. What have been some of the strategies you've used in your life to overcome some of those issues?
Mainly prayer. I learned from an early age. Well, when I was in the hospital recovering from getting hit by a car, I had so many cards and letters and visitors, and every single one said the same thing. Like, you're so blessed. God was really, looking out for you. He's got a purpose for you. I mean, who lives after getting hit by a car going 75 miles an hour? That's just like unheard of. And so that really resonated with me. Like, there is a God, and he loves me, and he saved me, saved my life. And then obviously, throughout my life, I've had so many situations where I've known and understood completely that God has been with me and is always protecting and always providing. And I became a Christian when I was 21. And so I would say that even today, when I start feeling anxiety and, that stress and kind of like, where you start to kind of spin, I just really pray. I mean, I pray for God to just give me peace, and that, really works. And then I also learned about Klonopin after my divorce, when I that was very traumatizing as well. And so I will take a Klonopin. Like, I have to take a Klonopin when I fly since the plane crash. And I'm not afraid at all, to use the Klonopin to help me calm down, to get me out of that fight or flight kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And then, obviously just walking, any kind of exercising, and, going outside with no shoes on to ground myself with the earth and just to be like, hey, everything is fine. And I completely understand now that, anxiety is just a feeling. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change any reality that's happening. It's just a feeling. And, I've learned a lot from that Iceman, what I can never remember his name, Venhoff or something like that, where he talks about all these breathing techniques. And that is so, so, so important. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
You're talking about the guy who basically can, he like can sit in like freezing cold water for hours upon hours without hypothermia. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
He believes that is, like so important, or like to take a cold shower every day. And it's two things, the breathing and then putting yourself in ice cold water. He injected himself with Ebola, I think was what it was. And he just breathed through it and nothing happened to him at all. It's pretty amazing. It's Gwyneth Paltrow has a show on Netflix called Goop, or the Goop Factory or something like that. And he was on an episode, and I just sat there and bawled crying, watching his episode, because it's so true how the breathing just, and so many people suffer from anxiety. And so it's just wonderful when you hear about techniques that really help.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's Wim Hof is his name. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
thank you. Yeah.
I love that. I've only vaguely heard of him. I'll need to check that out because that's I won't lie. In my own life, I have struggles with anxiety here and there, and I think that could be really powerful for me to practice more breathing exercises like that.
Absolutely. He's fascinating.
Yes, I'll have to check them out too as well, because I think we all have a little anxiety from time to time. So it is a crazy world right now that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you kind of in your book, you share some of your favorite tips and staying true to yourself, and you share your faith. And so I think it's a great book for everyone that's listening, because you have so much to share with everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, I tried to touch on every aspect of life, that I thought, and especially parenting, because, I was born with a gift to sing, and I knew that I was born to be a singer and do this for my career, but I was also born to be a mother. And, being a mom has been the biggest blessing of my life. And so I talk a lot about parenting, and I talk a lot about, and I'm pretty harsh too when I talk about step parenting, because so many people get it wrong. And so many people are, selfish when they enter into second marriages with children that are from previous marriages. And so I really, really harp on that a lot. And I did that on purpose so that, if anybody is married with, and I talk especially to women, when you marry someone who has children from another marriage and they don't get to live with their dad anymore, and now your husband is living with you and your kids. I went through that with my parents' divorce. And so I really, really, harp on women who don't take the time to understand what the children are going through and how they might be feeling.
Right. Because blended families are, there's a lot of them now today. I'm from a blended family, and my husband and I both have children from other spouses, so exes. A blended family is important to understand. And what is one of the biggest advices you give mothers out there?
Well, the biggest thing that I said to women who are married to men that have children already is they need to allow and provide and help facilitate the relationship between their new husband and his children. And, you know, take away any jealousy, um, because there's always this feeling of like when I first got married to Jay, I he has a daughter and three sons, and I would look at his daughter and be like, "Oh my gosh, she is an identical twin to her mother." And, those are things that you have to, say to yourself, I'm the adult in the room. This precious child had no say in anything that's going on. They're innocent victims. And so you can't be jealous. You can't ever talk bad about the other parent. Um, and just really try to I wanted Jay's kids to feel so welcome in our new home. And so I had all the kids' names embroidered on their pillows, and everybody had their own bed. So everybody had their own space with their bed, with a pillow, with their name on it. So it's like when I go to dad's house, you know, I know that there is a place for me and I'm wanted there. And you just have to make sure that you always think about, how is this being, like I have two daughters, for instance. And so when it would be time for Jay's kids to visit, I would say to my girls, let Sarah Ashley have her time with daddy. My kids call him Daddy Jay, and now the whole world calls him Daddy Jay. But, you know, try to sort of, back away a little bit. Like if it was a Wednesday night visit, and allow Daddy Jay to spend some one-on-one time with his kids, but in particular his daughter, because, I'm sure it was very hard for her to see her dad living with two other little girls, and you just always have to be thinking about that. Most of us in those situations are only thinking of ourselves. And if you didn't go through a divorce as a child, you really, really should do your research and, make sure that you're loving that stepchild well.
That is so true. My parents are divorced, and it was a nightmare. And I don't think sometimes they made the best decisions with the kids involved. So
Hmm.
when my children's dad and I got divorced, I always made sure that I never said a bad word about their dad.
Yeah.
We uh, we all go events together. Um, we make it work. And today now I have grandchildren, and they don't know any different. They see my ex-husband and I there, and they just think that's Grandpa Doug and that's Grandma, and then we have our other spouses with us, so they don't know any different. I think it's very important to keep that blended family as happy and as normal as you possibly can, and care about everybody else that's involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's wonderful. Unfortunately, we don't have that exact situation, and my kids, were with me full time. They never did, like, go to be with their dad. It's a sad, really sad, unfortunate situation, but um we had Jay's kids, every other weekend and every Wednesday night, every other week in the summer, holidays. And so I just knew I remembered so vividly the feelings that I had when we would go see our dad and he was living with other kids. So I just tried to do everything I could to openly converse with them about it. Hey, if you're ever feeling anyway, I mean, you can always talk to us. And, I know it must be hard that your dad's living with my kids, but you are obviously welcome here anytime you want to be here. Um, just to keep it really loose and light too. And I also talked in the book about, I regarded myself with my stepkids as more of an aunt, like a fun aunt. I never tried to mother them because they had their own mom. They have a mom already. So I just tried to make it fun. All I did was cook and play sports and swim and just fun, 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 fun. And I never tried to parent them because I'm not their parent. I'm their step parent. And I just, I think that's really important that you don't step in and all of a sudden just try to boss them around and make them call you mom or anything like that.
That is so true. My husband, he has three girls, and unfortunately, two of them don't see him, but one of them does come, and and that's what we do. We kind of just enjoy her. Um, I'm her bonus mom, she calls me.
Right.
So yeah. So I don't parent her as much unless, just a few rules at our house, and um, but it's a tough situation because my husband deals with the other girls. They don't come, and there's feelings there, and so it's it's very important to work through. And I think your book, it gives blended families a lot of advice, and thank you for sharing your stories and doing that for everyone because it's so important.
Absolutely, it is. And I will say too, it is. I understand that it's very hard to be a stepmom, and so to flip the coin, I also speak to women who are divorced whose kids go and visit their dad and their stepmom. You as the mom need to try to promote that relationship because it's just healthier for the kids. And the stepmom gets zero credit for anything. And so you have to, if you're the mom, you need to encourage the kids, say thank you to your stepmom for all she does for you. And, it's just all the adults all the way around need to try to do the right thing at all times.
That is so true because um, I've always encouraged, you know, even my stepdaughter, she'll call and she'll be upset with her mom, and I'll say, "You can't disrespect your mother. You have to hold your tongue," because she's 14, and I think being supportive of each parent that's involved, and it helps the kids have a better life and not make them so much a victim of divorce.
Absolutely. Amen.
Incredible. I don't have children, so this is new territory for me, but I am loving what I'm learning right now. I also just want to say, Sarah, I just so appreciate how authentic you are. I have greatly enjoyed this conversation, and I just sense like I feel like we're sitting in the same room, and you're just chilling with me, and I love that.
Thank you. I think that's so important. Being a famous person, people act really weird around me, especially when they first meet me, because they just don't know. Like, the stereotypical famous person is, they're snobby, or they're hard to deal with, or they're a diva. And it's super important to me to, get to know people right off the bat and let them understand that I'm such a normal person. I grew up poor on a farm, and I worked so hard to get to where I am today. And it's very important for me to be as authentic as possible so that I can have true relationships. And I always want people to love me for me and want to be around me because they love me, not because I'm famous.
Yeah. I hear that. I of course am nowhere on the caliber of what you've achieved in your life yet, but here in Missouri, I am somewhat known for what I do, and it's a weird thing when you walk in. Oh, you're that DJ guy. I'm just Brock. That's all I am. And it's almost like you kind of have to, with people like that, almost have to like unteach them who you are, so that you can actually let them experience who you actually are.
Yeah, I always say it's not me that changed; it's the people in my life that changed when I became famous. Because they're all of a sudden like, are you? Do you think you're cool, or are you? Do you look down on me now because you're a celebrity? And the answer is absolutely not. I'm just as normal and as much of a dork as anybody in this world.
I love it. Actually, I debated on whether or not I'd share this, but I'm going to share a funny story with you about my youth. Can I do that really quick?
Of course.
I grew up in a very small town in Missouri as well, a town Thayer, Missouri. I graduated the class of 32 people. It's very small.
Yeah.
And my first job was on a country radio station. And this was back when, Born to Fly, Suds in the Bucket, Backseat of Greyhound Bus, all these songs were killing the charts. So I was pretty excited coming into this podcast because I was so familiar with you. And if you ask my family, they'll be honest with you about this. When I was 16 years old and you're that age, or your boy, you don't even have any idea what you're looking at in the future. All these kids around me are, they're crushing on like Megan Fox, or I don't even know who they're crushing on. But I always remember I would tell people I thought you were like the best thing that ever happened. I just thought you were the coolest thing. And then I got to see you in Sykeston at I believe it was the PBR rodeo, or whatever the rodeo is out there they call that. You were out there. It was so cool to get to see you and meet you at that experience. So I've always been a huge fan of Sara Evans.
That's awesome. Oh my God. I love that story.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Me.
No.
I texted my brother, my dad. I'm like, you'll never believe who I'm on podcast with this week. And they've been picking on me ever since. In fact, they've been texting me as I've been on the podcast, making fun of me a little bit. So
that is awesome. Well, tell them I said hi.
I will do it. Something you said earlier, I really want to touch on, because I think this is very inspiring. You said you've known at a young age, man, I want to be a singer. I want to sing. Is that right?
Yeah, it's, It's partly I knew from a young age, and partly I was told to do it from a young age. So my two older brothers started taking guitar lessons, and both my parents are, have natural music talent, huge music lovers, but never performed on stage themselves. My dad had the most beautiful voice, and so I would start singing along with my brothers when they would come home and practice, and they would learn songs and I would sing them. And my parents, I almost envisioned them both like looking at each other like, holy crap, we've got a band here. Like, they realized that I had the natural talent to sing. So they put me on mandolin, and my brother Matt played banjo, my brother Jay played guitar, and then they found musicians. Put a band together, and it's just crazy looking back, how we were just farmers in a small town. My dad worked at the Columbia Daily Tribune as a pressman, and he worked the graveyard shift, and then he would farm during the day. And at that time, my we had five siblings, and my two youngest sisters came later. But the fact that my mom had that gumption, and she's such an entrepreneur, that she did that for us and put the band together, and then she started booking shows. And I recently asked her, why did you do that? And she was only 24 when I was born, and I was her third child. So just, what made her do that? How did she even have the time to do that? She said, I just wanted you guys to make it out of New Franklin and be more than just a high school athlete, and have more opportunity. And so I'm so grateful to my parents for going to the trouble and spending the money and doing that. And before long, we were booked, all the time, every weekend, all summer long. We were playing rodeos and fairs and festivals. So the long way of answering your question, I knew that I wanted to be a singer, and it's almost like when you have like a prodigy athlete, like an athlete that starts playing tennis as a little tiny kid, and you would ask them, did you always know you wanted to be a tennis player? And the answer is, I've always been a tennis player from the time I can remember. And so because my mom put me on stage at 4 years old, it's all I've ever known. And then of course in high school, I started really, obsessing over music and branching out from country and becoming obsessed with Fleetwood Mac and Heart and the Eagles and, you know, all kinds of music, not just country.
That is incredible. I think it's especially inspiring because I think there are a lot of people out there in life who have that sense that, I was made to do this, or I'm really good at this thing, or I really want to do this thing. And maybe the way life works, sometimes they don't pursue that. And so I love that your story is one that is, no, I went all in, and I believed everything about it, had a good support system. And here you are today, living what you believe you're born to do. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah. Thank you. And, I would say that to, parents too. Like if you see, sorry, I'm putting my dog on the bed and he's really old and really fat. If you see that, your kids have something, you have a child that has a special talent, make the effort to provide them with everything that they need to explore that, and don't be a lazy parent. You're like, oh yeah, Johnny says that he loves guitar, and get him a guitar and put him in guitar lessons and make that happen for your kid. And I'm just, so grateful, like I said, that my parents had, and I totally believe that was God too, pushing them in that direction. Because it was really hard for my mom to take us to the shows on the weekends. And, any of us who have kids who do sports or cheer or dance or anything like that, it takes a lot of effort. But man, if you see some, real natural gift in your child, you should do everything you can to help facilitate that, and tell them to leave home and go for it.
Yeah, push them out of the nest a little bit.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thanks for being an inspiration in that way. I really am grateful that we get to hear your story.
Thank you.
And of course, listeners, if you want to tune into her memoir and hear even more, you should check it out. It is out. I also want to touch on, you released a new album last year. Copy that.
Yes. So I had so much fun making this record. As I've mentioned like 50 times, I grew up on stage. So we were obviously a covers band. You know, I had to learn every country song that was popular. I knew every Reba song, every song that my mom told me to learn, basically. So Barbara Mandrell. And when you're in a covers band and you're doing like playing in bars or Eagles lodges, you're doing 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. and it's 4 sets. So you play 45 minutes, then you take a 15-minute break. Then you play we've all been to those bars where there's a band. That's what I grew up doing. And I've always had one cover song on every album, like Born to Fly. I put Every Little Kiss on there. And I never had the opportunity to make an entire album full of cover tunes. So with this one, we had just moved back to Nashville. I married my husband, Jay, moved to Birmingham so that we could all live together and, he would never have to be away from his kids. So my girls were doing online school, his kids were graduated. So we moved back to Nashville and I met this producer named Jarrad K, who's not really a country producer, but he produced the Ruston Kelly album. Ruston Kelly was married to Casey Musgraves. I don't know if you're familiar with his music, but I was so impressed with that production. And so I met with him and said, I need to make a record. I just moved back to Nashville. Are you interested in making a covers record with me? Because I don't really have time to write everything right now. I want to get something out. And he was like, oh my gosh, yes. And so we started this big group text where everybody that was important to me, my husband, my kids, my brother, my producer, my manager, and I would just tell them, anytime y'all think of a song, send it to the group text. So we had, because obviously there are millions of songs that you could cover. My one rule that I set for myself was all these songs are going to be songs that I've never recorded before and never performed before. Wanted them all to be new and fresh. So yeah, we came up with this list that I think is amazing. And it's one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in the studio. Jarrad being like, in his early 30s, he introduced me to all these musicians that I've never worked with before. And we just had a blast. And I think I hate to say this because I have so many songs and albums that I adore and that I'm proud of, but I'm so, so, so proud of this record. And I think it's possibly some of my best work. And I love it because, as soon as you turn it on, every song.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved, I love finding a little Dexy's Midnight Runners on there. Come On, Eileen. Yeah. That was super cool. So My Sharona, of course. And then I love that you tag teamed with Old Crow Medicine Show as well.
Oh my gosh. And we had Old Crow Medicine Show be the band for I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry by Hank Williams. And that song and that kind of singing is totally my wheelhouse. That's how I started out. We were primarily like a bluegrass band when I started singing at the age of 4. And so I love to sing those old country songs where you're just kind of yelling out that real bluegrass sound. And then Phillip Sweet sang with me on Whenever I Call You Friend, which was originally Kenny Loggins and Stevie Nicks. And we tried to copy the songs. That's why I named the album Copy That, because we decided to not change them too much and respect the songs and the producers and the musicians and the writers and the backup singers and all of it as they recorded them. So they're all pretty much like, exactly the way the records are.
I love that. Kind of kept them authentic to what they were.
We did. Yeah.
Speaking of backup vocalists, did I hear correctly that on one of the tracks you've got your daughter featured on one? Is that correct?
Well, yeah, Livy. So Olivia is a pop singer. We're about to launch her career this year. We just finished making an EP on her. And she is like me on steroids.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and
That's awesome.
so she does a standout part on the John Mayer song, All We Ever Do Is Say Goodbye. And then she sang harmony on every song. I mean, she and I and Jarrad, the producer, did almost all the harmony parts. So like when you hear at the beginning of Whenever I Call You Friend, there's all those vocal parts. And on Come On Eileen, and we did all of those, and she's incredible. And then my son Avery played all the guitar parts. So he is doing all the solos, all the lead guitar stuff that you hear is my son Avery, except on my Sharona. He wasn't there for tracking that song. But yeah, so my kids are following in my footsteps for sure. They're both aspiring artists.
Wow, that's awesome. You've inspired the next generation.
Absolutely. And it's so much fun. And we did a special project called the Barker Family Band. And everyone listening needs to go download live at City Winery. So it's Sara Evans and the Barker Family Band live at City Winery. And you can hear our live show that we did. And it's so much fun. So you can hear a lot more of my daughter singing and my son playing guitar.
Wow.
I've always had siblings on stage with me. My sisters have always toured with me and sang harmony. And always sang on my records. So it's a family business.
I love that. I'm sure that has incredible positive moments and maybe occasionally some frustrating moments too.
Yeah, it's, my brother Matt and I have been really, really good at having a working professional relationship and a brother-sister relationship. And I think that's because he's 3 years older than me. So I respect him as my big brother. And then I'm his boss and he respects me in that way. So, and then his wife, KK, has done my hair and makeup and wardrobe for 20 years. So, I mean, we are literally just, a big family and out there touring together. But yeah, there have been moments, like, especially with my sisters, where we spend too much time on the bus together and we get a little annoyed and we need, a couple days off, and then we are good to come back together.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, Sara, what's ahead for you? What's next? Do we have another book coming, a tour? Tell me about the future.
More music for sure. I mean, I can't wait to get back in the studio, and the next album is going to be an original album, of course. And I want to, try to write every song and I want Jarrad to produce it again. I'm just waiting for, I'm waiting for people to start writing again in person. I'm not really keen to write on Zoom. I will if I have to, but I just want to get the corona behind us. And I'm really looking forward to writing the next project and then going in the studio later this year. And then, back on the road. I mean, we usually do about 80 shows a year and they've all been canceled. I haven't really worked since last February. It's tragic. And it's very, very frustrating. And so hopefully the touring will start back again soon.
Well, it will be exciting to have you back on tour. I'll have to, what we'll do is as soon as we see that, we'll make sure we feature it on our socials and people can know where to find you.
Awesome.
Did we lose Sherry? Sherry, you still with us?
No, I'm still here. Just been listening. Just listening to you guys talk.
That's so funny.
So I've enjoyed it. So I can't wait to see you back out there, Sara, and on tour, and hopefully we can make it to maybe a few concerts if you're close, or we can head south. I'm ready to head south anytime. So.
Yeah, take a road trip. Yeah,
yes.
That when touring starts, that we're going to be twice as busy as we've been in years, and just reschedule all the shows that were canceled and then book more, because I know that people are desperate to hear live music, and live music is essential. So and live everything, any
Yes.
form of live entertainment has just been devastated. And my thing is, if you can fill an airplane full of people that are all crammed together wearing a mask, then we can do that at these venues, and we can figure out a safe way to have concerts. So it's just going to require that one person that says, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I am down. You count me in on that.
Awesome.
Yes, me too.
Awesome.
Well, Sara, where can listeners find your music, find your new album?
Anywhere music is sold, you can go to saraevans.com. Sara Evans Music is my Instagram, but I'm on iTunes and Spotify and anywhere that you can find music. But yeah, definitely check out the new album, copy that. You'll love it and you'll know every song.
And where can they find your book as well, Born to Fly?
Same thing, anywhere you get books. And if you want to listen to it on Audible, again, I recorded it myself, so that's my actual voice narrating my book. And yeah, check it out. You'll be very surprised at all that has happened to me.
I'm eager to tune in and listen to that. So I'll probably just acquire that tonight, put it in my headphones. It'll be good.
Sounds great.
Yeah. I was going to throw out an idea. Do you care if we feature a song from your Copy That album? Maybe a clip from perhaps My Sharona or a different track? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Whatever y'all want to play. I would love that.
Awesome. Listeners, feel free to tune in right now. We've got a feature from Sara Evans' latest album, Copy That. This one is My Sharona.
Sometimes, Sharona, ooh, you make my motor run, gonna come off for good. Sharona, never gonna stop, give it up, such a dirty mind, I always get it up, for the top of the younger kind, my, whoa, my Sharona, come a little closer, will you hop, close enough to look in my eyes, Sharona, keep it a mystery, a destiny, running down the length of my eyes, Sharona, never gonna stop, give it up, such a dirty mind, I always get it up, for the touch of the younger kind, whoa.
That's incredible. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. Sara, thank you for taking time to visit with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been so fun.
Yes.
No, I loved it. And hopefully we'll be able to get back on tour, get to see you soon. And I don't know, maybe on the next opportunity, we'll have you back on the show.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sara.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Sara.
it.
Bye.
Listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. That was a multi-platinum recording artist, Sara Evans, here on the Sherry and Brock Show. And tune in next week. We've got another treat, a very special visitor for us. And so we will see you next week.